Welcome to the Hair of the Dog podcast. You guys, buckle your seatbelt for the most energetic and enthusiastic conversation on taxes that you will have ever experienced. I had this conversation with Tiffany, who's an enrolled agent with the IRS, helps photographers with their accounting and their taxes. And oh my gosh, I just loved it. And we geeked out over it. And it was fantastic. If you are a US-based photographer, you must listen to this episode. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Hair of the Dog podcast. If you're a pet photographer ready to make more money and start living a life by your design, you've come to the right place. And now, your host, pet photographer, travel addict, chocolate martini connoisseur, Nicole Begley.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hair of the Dog podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Begley, and today we have a very special guest with us, someone that I actually kind of randomly found because someone in my community posted a resource they found from her, and I'm like, oh, she needs to get on my podcast. So this secret person I'm talking about is Tiffany Bastian. She's an accountant and tax pro for photographers, has an MBA in accounting, is an IRS certified enrolled agent and advanced QuickBook Pro advisor, founder of Bastian Accounting, where she and her team work specifically with photographers through an array of offerings from online courses to done-for-you services. And she believes that we're always exactly where we're supposed to be and that there are no mistakes or failures, only opportunities for growth. I couldn't agree more. Tiffany, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I think it's kind of funny because I feel like you're always exactly where you're supposed to be. When you said that, I'm like, it's so interesting that I'm here today.
It is. It's amazing. And from one total numbers geek to another, I can't tell you how excited I am for this conversation to talk about taxes.
I love it. I love that you love it.
I know. I'm really weird. But truly, I think so many people think about taxes and they're like, oh my God, and they're so scared about it and they just want to like hide under the rug. And yes, the US tax code is a ridiculous and a monster, and I think actually would take several lifetimes if you were going to read the whole tax code.
Yeah.
but I heard once, and it was a great kind of flip of our mindset, was that the tax code was written for us as ways that we could save money. So let's utilize it and let's make sure that we're doing our taxes correctly, but taking advantage of the things that are built into the tax code that help us. So we should not be scared of it. We should shine the light on it and look at it and learn more about it.
I love that. I always say you can't play the game if you don't know the rules, right?
Like exactly.
And so many people are scared. I think it's probably the verbiage too. And it's written in such a dry way that It's like, it's enough to make you feel dangerous, right?
Right.
But really it is. Like, when you start to really discover, like, what is it they're saying? And the other part of it is, tax law is like any law. Like, it's not like black and white. You cannot do this. It's like there are court cases where people have done that and you can use that as your reasoning. So, and maybe it's like the argumentative thing of like, I can. Like, I always think about, like, if the IRS was here, how would I argue this thing that I'm doing? Because there is an argument. I think people just get into this like mindset of there's do or do not. There's no like in between, and there totally is.
Yeah. And there's so many things that I think a lot of people just don't even realize that they can do because they don't want to spend the time here because it's not as exciting as taking pretty pictures. And, and then they're overwhelmed and nervous about it. They don't want to make a wrong mistake. I'm a huge believer that everyone, whether they're starting their business or have been in business for 20 years, should have a CPA that they work with that have some sort of tax professional, because it's a full-time job to keep up with the changes. I mean, you probably have whiplash for the past 2 years.
Yes, it's just insane. It's like you don't even know anymore. And then you get to the point where people are asking me, and I'm like, wait, what? That just happened? And it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Right.
And what does all of it mean? And some of it expires, so it's only available for a certain amount of time, or this is the rule for this tax year. We don't even know if it affects next tax year. Yeah. I think that it's something that a lot of people just put under their bed. Like they get going, and even myself, I'm going to be honest, like my business started growing and I was taking care of my clients, and then I had a big tax bill and I was like, oh my God, like I am the accountant. How does this happen? My husband's like, when are we getting our return? I'm like, about that.
You
You can kiss those goodbye forever. But the thing was that I realized like there has to be a way, and it's tax planning is it's really the thing of like stopping. It's like anything we do, right? If you don't stop and plan out how you're going to approach things, you just get there and you do what you do. And that's how you end up every February, probably like, oh my God, I have to get all this stuff together for last year. I don't even know how I did last year. I don't even know how much I brought in. I don't even know what I spent. Like, that's like nowhere to like lead a business from, but it's hard and it's so common. Like, so many people just like get into something and they're like, oh, I can make money at this. And then before you know it, they're like, this is a whole thing. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, hit the brakes. This is a business. What am I supposed to do? And it's scary because then you feel I think it even feels like embarrassing. Like, how did I get this far and not know? And I want to just say to anyone listening, like, it is completely normal. I run into and meet photographers every day in various different situations, 6-figure, 7-figure, still like, what the hell is sales tax or whatever, you know? And that's the thing. It's okay. You have to like embrace that and then move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think embracing it from the place of, okay, you know, I can't change in the past, but from here on forward, it's like, what's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. Okay, second best time is now.
True.
So if you haven't gotten your tax game in order yet, like, okay, let's get together now and move forward. And the same thing, if you're rifling through those shoe boxes with your receipts for this year, still early in the year, what system can we put into place now to do that? I know for me, I would be a wreck if I didn't have something that would automatically pull in my transactions.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, lifesaver. And there's so many different accounting softwares out there that are able to do that. So that's always my advice is, number one, get your some sort of accounting software, invoicing software automated where it's pulling in all those transactions.
Yeah, that's true. And even before that, the one thing I could say, if somebody was like, oh my God, what should I do? Just get a separate bank account.
Yes.
Because at the very least, I say this is not ideal. So like, but at the very least, you could just dump that all into a spreadsheet at the end of the year. And you're not, I mean, you have so much, you're just years ahead of the work you're about to do because you have it all there.
Yeah.
But yes. And then ideally having a system that's doing this for you. And I mean, we use QuickBooks, but the thing is like, you can start to automate all that for yourself. Like, you know, we handle that for our clients, but also teach them how to like set it up. And then you can start having it do a lot of the heavy lifting for you each month. And you don't necessarily have to have someone handling it for you. You get to a point where you're like, I want to outsource that because I don't want to deal with it, but I understand it. And that's the other thing. People a lot of times just give it to somebody, whether it's their taxes or bookkeeping. They don't understand what's going on and no one ever teaches them. And that is just not how I roll. I can't even deal with that. I'm like, when I help my clients understand things, it makes my job easier.
Right.
Like, I don't understand anyone who would just blindly do this stuff.
Right. No, there's 100% a difference between outsourcing and just blindly throwing money at a problem, trying to sweep it under the rug, because that's never going to serve you because you need to know what's happening. So,
and I would be very wary of a CPA or an accountant or someone who's never asking you questions.
Right.
Like, how do they know? Do they have a crystal ball at their desk that tells them? I don't understand that. And I get a lot of people, especially like in my Facebook group and stuff, that'll be like asking me questions based on like, I asked my quote unquote tax guy or tax girl, and I always like kind of like laugh at that. And I'm like, you guys, you're literally handing all your stuff to someone you don't even have a name relationship with them. They're your tax guy. Like, think about that for a minute. And I'm like, I surely hope none of my clients call me their tax lady because I'm so much more than that. And I know some of them get like, whoa, and some of them laugh, but it's like, it's true. And you would think of it like that. Like, that's like the most important part of your business, really.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely a key advisor. Super important to help you plan.
It's a necessary evil, but it has to happen. But it's not the funnest, sexiest thing. But
it is nice to know you have someone that has your back, though. You know, for especially if you are fearful of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do it wrong. Okay, 100% hire someone to help you. So that way, if for some reason, you know, you ever did get audited, which really is just not necessarily even a bad thing. They're just going to look, they'll find something here and there. And it's like, okay, but
the more organized you are, the less they find. Because don't think if you're disorganized, one thing leads to another. It's like Pandora's box. Because they're like, well, wait, what is that? And what is that? So the more organized you are, the easier it makes that process.
Right.
Like, think about that. If you were talking about all those receipts and boxes, like now if you get audited, now you have to go find that receipt in the box. Like, it's just such a nightmare.
And then the ink, I didn't realize this one too, that ink starts to fade.
Yes.
So Yeah. So take
or the
pictures.
heat sensitive ink, like literally, it's like Harry Potter. It's like the letters blank.
You're like, I swear this was a receipt, IRS. I promise.
Yep.
Oh, all right. Well, let's jump back for a second, and maybe we already started to talk on some mistakes, but are there some common mistakes that you see photographers making regularly?
Yeah. So I think that, these are sort of, I wouldn't say mistakes, but big pain points where there's a lot of confusion, overwhelm, and then tend to be a lot of like mistakes because of it. But it's business structure and sales tax. I feel like a lot of people, they hear about S corporation, which almost all my clients are. It's just I feel like I campaign for S-corp, like it's my job. But
are you an LLC filing as an S-corp, or are you a straight S-corp?
Well, so you have to be an LLC to file as an S-corp, or a corporation to file as an S-corp, like a C-corp, right? So a lot of people don't understand, like they think that if they file an LLC that suddenly changes, that changes nothing.
Right.
Right. It's just changing limited liability at the state level. And that's only changing that if you have a separate bank account and you're following the rules of an LLC, which most people don't do. They just keep going, mixing personal and business and living their best life. And then they don't realize that. But the thing is,
back up one second. Like, what are can you go over the different options? So I'm starting my business.
Yep.
What are my different business structure options?
So the biggest thing people don't realize is the second that you start, this is probably a common scenario. You start doing some photography and then you're like, oh, and then somebody pays you for it. And then you start, I'm going to book some things out. And you start to see how this can be a thing. Well, the second you take $1 for that service, you are a sole proprietor. There's no like official filing or anything that needs to happen. Now you have income that's taxable. So you definitely want to be tracking any expenses that you had to get there, whether it was mileage and travel to the event, whether it was the camera that you now have as your equipment, like things like that. And then the next thing is when you are a sole proprietor, essentially your business is your name with your social security number, right? So then, when you're filing your taxes, now you have an extra form and you're going to put the income and the expenses on there with that information. If you don't like that and you said, well, I want to be ABC photography, well, you need to file a DBA, which is doing business as. Some states call them assumed names. There's like every state, I'm telling you, every state has its own rules for everything. But essentially it's just saying, there's nothing fancy. It's just you have a name. So you're Jane Smith doing business as ABC account or photography, and then you can get a tax ID, which then sort of removes your social security number from circulation of all your business documents. But the next thing is then the LLC. And the LLC doesn't change anything about taxes, doesn't change anything for you, except for now you have limited liability, meaning that anything in that business bank account with the LLC name on it is all they could take in like a lawsuit. So you had a Bridezilla and she wins, like they can only go for that stuff. But if you're mixing personal business, it's called piercing the corporate veil. I don't know if you've heard this term before, but it means that an attorney could be like, well, look, you didn't treat your business separate, so we're not going to either.
Everything.
Yeah. And I totally recognize that there's this whole kind of messy beginning part where you're trying to figure that out. But man, you should get into that. The first thing you should do is just get a business bank account. It's like, I feel like it's the first thing that can help you in this path of starting to get organized. Then you have the S-corp, and the S-corp. So you're an LLC electing S-corp status. So this means that you are now an employee of your own business. Your business does have a separate tax return, but now you're on payroll. When you pay yourself any other way besides being in an S corporation, it is always a draw. You've probably heard owner draw. That does not go on your P&L. It's not a deduction to your business. You are paying taxes on the net income of your business, regardless of how much you put in or took out every year. And you're paying state income tax, federal income tax, and self-employment tax. Like self-employment tax is 15.3%. So like you're already halfway to 30% and you haven't even added federal or state. So it adds up quickly and you're paying it on that whole like number. But when you're an S corporation, you pay yourself on payroll. So and there's no longer self-employment tax because you're paying payroll tax, but the payroll tax comes out as an expense to the business and you really start to control your bottom line. You start an IRA, you can contribute to that. Your business can match you. These are all things I've done in my own business and I advise a lot of my clients to do because then you're actually paying yourself and everything's getting taken care of. And then it's that tax planning piece. But S corporation is so beneficial. And everyone always says, well, like, what's the magic number? How much money should I make? And I really think most photography businesses don't have a lot of overhead. Even if you have a studio, so maybe you might have rent or something, but if you look at your net income, so your income minus expenses, and you're like 2,500, 3,000, I mean, there's nothing wrong with becoming an S corp at that point. Because if you think about at the end of the year, let's say you have $25,000 profit, that could have been your wages. That could have been, and then it would be zero. I always think of it like that. Like that could have been your $25,000 salary from your own business. And now you'd have a net income of zero on your business and you wouldn't have any taxes flowing through.
Yeah.
When you think of it like that, it's like, wow, so it gives you that control. But there is just a lot of confusion around business structure, I think. And the biggest culprit is Facebook groups, because people are like, hey, and they're like, oh, my friend's cousin's a CPA and his daughter said this. And then everyone's like, religion, they do it.
Right.
So I get it. And that's why I started my group, because I was like, how do I answer questions? And I actually now approve posts just so I can really thoroughly answer each question with resources. Because, it's a lot, but it's simple if we start breaking it down. Like, it's not all this stuff is public knowledge. All the tax code is out there. I mean, I know it's not a romance novel, but all this stuff is out there. It's just intimidating. And I would even go a little further to say that people in my industry tend to make other people feel like they have some magic key over them. And I have all the answers and I know that. And I'm not like that. Like, everything I know, I could teach somebody. And I could do anything I'm doing now, honestly, without the degrees. It's a matter of studying and understanding the tax law,
Yeah, absolutely. So. Oh my gosh. So good. Yeah. The LLC, the sole proprietor, or filing as an S-corp, I think it's such a magical thing. It's one of those things. It's like, oh, this is one of those special tax presents that they actually have buried in the tax code for us. I have a solo self-directed 401k that it's, you can do my employee contribution and then I can have an employer contribution for my business. And it's fantastic.
I know, it's crazy. Like, and in that year where I had a total meltdown and I was out money, I'm going to tell you, I took $10,000 off of a 0% credit card, opened an IRA, because I will tell you, there is one last thing you can do. At the end of the year, after the year is over, you can open certain IRAs for yourself and still deduct it in the prior year's taxes. That was my saving grace. But that was the year I got it all together and I started tax planning. And now I have a retirement, and I've been contributing to that retirement plan for 7 years. And it's through my business. So I kind of liken it to turning your business into this vehicle that's taking you where you want to go, versus this vehicle you're pushing up the hill every time. Right. And it's so easy to get caught in the making ends meet and not having time. And then the biggest thing is I have definitely met even 7-figure photographers who are on Instagram. They have people following them. They're educating people. And then they're going to bed at night, oh my God, I don't even know. It's horrifying. It's one of those things. And there's fear in the not knowing, but I'm here to remove that fear.
Yes, I love it. Gosh, this is all so good. All right. So that's business structure. The next thing, while we're on that business structure, let's kind of talk deductions, because I think there's a lot of miscommunication around that too, and misunderstandings. Totally. So what are some deduction surprises that are either hey, no, that's a no-go, or are you guys looking for those?
Yeah. So I'm thinking of one particular that I always get people what about clothes? I have to wear certain clothes to go to a wedding, or I have to do all these things, but unless your logo is on it, it's not really a deduction, because then it's marketing, right? You if it's something that you can wear anywhere else,
okay,
it is. But there's boudoir photographers and other people who maybe have a wardrobe closet, if you will. So with clothing and everything, it's I think that people are trying to figure out I have to get all the special stuff for these events or these things I'm going to, but it's not really a deduction. However, if the clothing is something that's I'm using this for different shoots, there's a different avenue. And I actually have a blog post that kind of talks how to treat it in the different ways. And I think if you were to ask maybe a CPA, they'd be oh, clothing. Okay, no, you can't do that. But really, let's look at it. What is this for? It's more this is something I'm reusing. And then actually the dry cleaning for it or whatever you're doing to maintain it, also deduction. So it's kind of one of those surprising ones. But the biggest, I think, is travel. People try to figure out, well, with travel, a lot of times I get questions well, I'm going on vacation and half my trip is for photography and the other half is for a family vacation. And it's my advice there is to track the whole thing, just not in your bookkeeping. And then you're going to figure out how many days you're there. Because if you're audited, you want to prove this stuff too.
Right.
How many days you're there, and you figure out the percentage of that trip, the airfare, everything, of whatever percentage is business based on how many days you were doing business versus personal. I definitely have had people who are well, I take pictures. I'm going, and I'm well, I hear you. Well, let's pretend the IRS is sitting here. How do we tell them? I take pictures of my vacation too.
Right.
Like, so we have to just.
What are you doing with those pictures? Yeah, exactly.
What would they say? I'm always like, what would the IRS say, and how can I argue that? And I think the other one would be like gifts. That's big, right? A lot of photographers will send some kind of gift, or maybe like something after their shoot to like just, so sticky, because gifts, the tax code is so old. And I don't think this particular law has been in effect since like the 60s. So it's why you're probably going to laugh, but it's $25 per person per year as a gift write-off. But is it really a gift? Right. Or is it like, everybody who gets package A gets this thing in the mail afterwards.
So it's part of cost of goods sold.
Yeah. And it's marketing, or it's like, and then it's also make sure you get as much branded stuff in there, because you're just ending that relationship so that not ending it, but you're like ending that shoot to like grow that relationship, and maybe they'll tell somebody else. And like, these are the ways I would argue this to the IRS. Right. So, I mean, again, it's kind of back to that thing in the beginning. It's not black and white. It's like, what is it for? What's the underlying thing here? And the other one is donations too, especially with pet photography. A lot of people will be like, I'm going to do an event at the SPCA, and how do I handle that? And there is no such thing as business donations. There's one, like, not a thing, doesn't exist, can't do it.
What do you mean? The write-off of taxable
donations in general are not a business expense unless you are a C corporation. And that is like Target. That is like Starbucks. And the reason is because those are double taxed. They're taxed at the business level, and then their owners are taxed. And so this is one of the big things I get all the time. And so it's like, well, is it donation or is it marketing, right? Is the SPCA like is telling all these people, you're there doing it, you're getting exposure. Even maybe you're giving it away, or I've had clients who have them donate directly to the SPCA while they're there. Like, that's what they do to get their shoot. So then they get their donation. The other part of donations is it has to be an IRS certified nonprofit organization. It can't just be a GoFundMe page. It can't just, and I think, and that's disheartening, because I know like that was really popular even like 5 or 6 years ago. There's so much GoFundMe stuff, and people, but also donate because you want to. That's out of the kindness of your heart. It's not just for a tax deduction. But a lot of people were like, what? That's not, a deduction. But, there are ways. Just think about like, what am I trying to accomplish? And it's okay to be, I'm helping the SPCA, I'm doing all this stuff, but also I am getting brand exposure. And I have my marketing materials here. People know who I am now, and they may come to me for something else. And so I feel like it's completely okay. But it's just, it really is kind of saying, what am I trying to do? Like, what are the outcomes of this possibly, so that I can deduct it in that avenue of whatever that is.
Right. Oh, yeah. I didn't realize that one. That's a new one for me. Oh boy. Yeah. What
and
about,
oh God. There's no line on any tax form for charitable donations.
Right.
It's on your personal return. But even then, I'll say one more thing. Even then, it's only if you itemize your deductions.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Wow. All right. I like it. What about meals for deductions?
Oh, meals. That's a huge one. So there used to be meals and entertainment, right? So a lot of people, and even far before I was working with photographers, I had definitely had clients like insurance guys, we'll call them, quote unquote. You're like, oh, I have Sabres tickets for the whole season. I'm taking a client. I'm like, that is literally so
the country club membership and all the things.
That's why they took that away. But meals are their business meals are still a deduction, and it's 50%. But this year, and I don't know how long it will go because of COVID, it's 100% because as long as it is purchased from a restaurant.
Yeah.
So like they're trying to help restaurants get back on their feet. And I guess this is their approach to that, is letting you have 100%. But again, you can't just be like, oh, I ran through Starbucks on my way to a wedding. Right. No, it has to be like, I met a client, I met a contractor, I met an employee. Like, you have to be conducting some kind of business, and to be really, really obnoxious. Like the tax code literally says on the receipt, you have to have who you met with and what you were doing.
Yeah.
So I know that feels like so lame.
I don't put what I was doing. Oh, I'll have to start adding that.
Yeah. Because I'm sure that they'll look for that if audited, but there's a difference too. And then, so let's step aside that. Like, what if you have a studio though? Like if you're buying water and coffee and things like that for your studio, that is supplies. Like that is a full deduction. That is for your studio.
Right.
I know people do some in-person sales, and they always have like refreshments for that. Like that's different than a meal.
Right.
A meal is going to a restaurant or, but there's definitely, DoorDash, I can't even tell you. I'm like, you guys, for real now, seriously, this is not a business meal. So, you just have to be mindful of that. And it's a thing is like, it's kind of like the clothes. Like if you would still need to eat and you would still
Right.
eat if you weren't at work, and you would still need to wear these clothes, and you could still wear these clothes because they're not like, it's not a hard hat or some special piece of equipment. So
Right. All right. Very good. With those deductions, I know a lot of people, they're starting their business and maybe they start their business over the course of, like 18 months. So maybe there's a whole bunch of expenses they had in, say, 2021, but they're not bringing in income till 2022. What's the best way for them to track
that's
those?
a perfect question, actually. So that's a very common one too. So those can be called like startup expenses, but not necessarily do they need to be, because I feel like startup expenses are meant for like bigger companies where you have like hundreds of thousands of dollars in startup to get something going. I say the second that you're starting this business and you're going to start purchasing the stuff for it, you need to file taxes, even if you have no income. Okay. Yeah. It's okay to have a loss. And that's just income, no income, and all you have is expenses, right? So you're going to have a negative. Yeah. You'll have a net loss. So that's actually going to help you, because that's going to flow over to your personal return and reduce any taxes you owe there or increase any refunds you're getting there. But you also have to deduct things in the year in which you put them into service. You can't just be like, oh, well, now that I'm a photographer, 2 years ago, I bought this stuff. You can't do that. So you want to make sure you start the clock, if you will, on those things. However, there's always that question about, well, what's a hobby? What's the difference? And so the IRS says that if you have a loss 3 consecutive years in a 5-year period, like they will send you a letter. Like they will be like, okay, and there's going to be a whole thing. It's not like you just have to you naturally have to just become a hobbyist. It's just, they don't want you not trying to make a profit. Mm-hmm. They want, like, I don't know, you wanted to do trains and you're just like, well, I'm writing off all these train parts. And then I do a couple things, like I'll sell something, like they don't want you trying to basically get all these deductions for something that you're not actually trying to profit from it ever. You're just breaking even. So, but that is very rare. But a lot of photographers, I think, because photography sometimes can start as a hobby, they worry about that. But I want you to know the IRS will let you know. Like, just live your life. They will always let you know the thing. It'll probably be 6 months too late. Like, because it'll be 6 months after the fact of the letter, the date of the letter, but they will let you know. But yeah, the thing is, those expenses, you want to capture that stuff because that's going to help you.
Yep.
Even if you have no income.
Yes. And if the IRS calls you in a broken accent, it's not the IRS. Yes. They will always send a letter, right?
Yes. And if they send you and now, like, I see so many fake letters. They send you letters that have you calling anything. You got to look for like all this stuff on this. You got to make sure. I even telling you recent letters I've got, I know they're real, but they don't look right.
I got one last year.
Box of, around the thing. I'm like, that doesn't seem right.
I got one last year and I was like Googling whatever was on the form of this letter, and and like, I'm like, oh, it is legit.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can always, it's a good idea, because you can always Google and find out, like, all letters have like a number, like CP, whatever, and they all mean something. And I've definitely seen letters where it looked like official, but that number meant nothing too. Right. So definitely do your research.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Perfect. The other big mistake you said, or the people don't understand, is sales tax. So let's shift gears from deductions and talk a little bit about sales tax.
I know.
Which, I mean,
like
talk about different rules for different states. I used to be in PA and it was nice and simple. My county had an extra %, but it was based on all sales of my business. Now in North Carolina, not even each county, each flippin' town has their own set of like Jenga matching 8 different taxes together that are all different rates that you have to like, and I get around it as people come here for their sales session and they come here to pick it up. So I'm like, boom, it's all on Cornelius, North Carolina.
Yep. And that is something. So with sales tax, there's 2 things. You can be in a destination state or an origin state. An origin state is going to be that it's your zip code.
So like PA was, Yep.
And a destination state is wherever the client takes possession. And what you're doing is exactly what I advise a lot of my clients to do. It's merely like, it's a lot of tracking.
Right.
And it's like, if you have them pick up from wherever this, one place all the time, then you just have to track that one zip code. And so that is huge advice. And I'm so glad that you're doing that. Because a lot of people don't realize that they're in a destination state. But you're right. Every state is different. First of all, on what's taxable, there's so many states taxing digital now.
Mm-hmm.
Maryland just started taxing digital March of last year. And like a lot of people just started realizing that.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing, you guys, is like 98% of the state's income comes from sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
And you're living in a world now where everyone's ordering stuff from other states and they're starting to get hip to like, wait a minute, like we're losing money because people are buying stuff online or they're getting all this digital stuff. So they're jumping on board. And, the biggest thing is too, states don't mess around. Like that's the one thing. If you're behind on sales tax, we do VDAs for a lot of our clients. We'll get clients that come in and they're like, okay, well, I don't know about sales tax. I've been in business for a year and a half. And, there's a lot of things. So VDAs are this option where you can go to the state and say, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I have all this stuff. I need to pay these taxes. I need to go back to the state, because that's the other thing you have to be careful. You tell them you formed an LLC, back to the date you formed that LLC, you're going to have to explain what you've been doing with sales tax. So be honest, go all the way back, but then they will remove any fines or penalties for you and set you up on like a payment plan.
Yeah.
Caveat is most states will say, if you haven't registered. So I do get people that have registered that never done anything. And then they're like, well, you knew because you registered and we sent you letters every quarter. And, so, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about sales tax, and you're behind, don't register, get some help with a VDA first, because that's a huge difference. But every state's different about what's taxable, what's not, and then what rates you're charging based on origin or destination, your zip code or theirs. And then even the biggest one is traveling in other states, destination. Like you're going to go to a certain state. They all have rules on if you're coming here, and some are like, the second you come here, you need to fill out this form for whatever shoots you do here. Some are like, after 3 visits in 12 months, you have to register for sales tax. There's a lot of people that live on borders of other states and regularly do business in that state and don't think about it. Or like wedding photographers that travel. If you're advertising on your site that you travel, or you travel to these places, you better be registered in those places, like, because they have this information.
Right.
And I have a whole sales tax guide that has every state broken down. And we're about to combine it into, we have 2, we're going to combine it into 1, but then you have the destination for that state too.
Yeah.
And I always tell people I'm totally community over competition, but it's going to be another photographer in that other state that blows you in and says, this person's coming here and they're not doing the sales tax right. And then you're up the creek without a paddle.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And yeah, the changing of the digital has been the Wild West for a while. I mean, especially you understand too, from the online education space. I mean, talk about no rules. And, and, I have a tax attorney that it's like once a year I check in, I'm like, am I still good here? Do I need to change anything? So
it's kind of silly, because I think if they tax digital courses and things like that, like they really got on board with that, they'd have so much money.
Yeah, I know. And it's so crazy.
It's coming, I'm sure.
And then my accountant's like, we should really kind of track because of this Wayfair case. And if you have 100 transactions in California, I'm like, well, that means if I have 10 members in California, and then you have to keep track of all these states' rules on the courses.
Yep.
Anyway, you guys, we should be very thankful that photography is a local business.
Yes.
It's a whole crazy world out here. But yeah, I think the moral of the story is don't keep hiding your head in the sand, because eventually it'll catch up with you to raise your hand and say, help, let me get straight on my sales tax, my business,
and it's
my
something
deductions.
That can kind of like expand, right? Because you might be like, okay, well, I just want to get this right and move forward. But again, if you filed that LLC, when you register for sales tax, you have to put on that information. They're going to see that you filed that LLC last year, and they're going to wonder why you're not going back to last year. So just be prepared, and also know that you can set up payment plans. I have plenty of clients right now that are on payment plans with their state for the next 6 months to get caught up. I mean, they want their money and they're going to work with you. And then you're going to feel so much better. Like imagine going to bed at night being like, I know what I owe in sales tax. I have tax plan for the quarter. That is my ideal. Like that's the situation I want for everybody out there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And
clarity is everything.
For sure. And the tax planning, I think, so important too, because I know it caught me by surprise, like you were saying with the, oh, wait, I'm not getting any money. I owe what? And at the same time, now you owe estimated, this is federal income tax we've shifted gears to.
Yes.
Now you owe federal estimated income tax. And at the same time, you owe this big tax bill, and that's due at the same time. And you're just like, well, that's a double whammy. Pretty rude.
And actually, you just hit on something because a lot of people do not realize that the second that you take $1 for business, you're the S-corp, or you're not the S-corp. Listen to me, and now I know what I'm saying. It's Friday. You're a sole proprietor. The second that you're a sole proprietor, the second that you're doing any of that, you need to make estimated tax payments. Taxes are pay as you go. And just think about when you worked for somebody else, you got a pay stub. And every time you got that pay stub, they took out all the taxes and they made those payments for you based on your W-4. When you work for yourself, no one's paying those taxes. You're supposed to be. That's where tax planning is important. And a lot of people think they don't realize they have to make those payments. They think it's like, oh, only if I make a certain amount or whatever. But I always challenge people to ever go look at their 1040 form. It's the main tax form. Go down by the signature spot. There's no CPA most of the time. They don't. No H&R Block. They don't say, they'll say, here's what you owe, here's what you're getting. But they never say, oh, and that line right there is all the penalties that you're paying in that. No, because you didn't make estimated tax payments. They never say that to you. And you'll find them especially if you've owed in a prior year and you had a business, go look at that line because it's the penalties for not making estimated tax payments.
Ooh. Yeah.
Because they ask you on the return, like they want to know what are the estimated payments you made, what are the dates, and they match those up. But then when they see like, you owed $25,000 and you made no payments towards it, now you get penalties for not doing that because they want their money. They want it as you go. As you make it, they want theirs. But
well, and they even want it too because we're very seasonal, right? A lot of photographers, the fall is when they make a lot of their money in the third and fourth quarter. But with estimated taxes, you have to take whatever your estimated, like, say my tax bill last year was $20,000. So I have to take that $20,000 and pay $5,000 a quarter, even though I haven't made all of my money until quarter 3 and 4. Is that correct?
Well, the rule is you have to pay 90% of what you owed last year.
Yep.
Not what you owed, but like if you look at the tax amount you owed and calculate it on that, or 100% of what you owe this year. Because like say this year you make more than last year.
Right.
And you don't have to divide it up like really the trick is as long as you make every estimated payment by January 15th. Yeah. It counts for the whole thing. It's not, they don't put any fines or penalties on it, but you should, but it's cash flow. You really should be, that's the cash flow issue. You really should be trying to make them as you go along because we always think that we do. And then we get there and we're like, oh my God, that number is just so much bigger. And I'm going to go lay down and cry. Right. Because also too, it might go up and down and, we do our tax planning from like January to, March, and then we'll do January to whatever based on, okay, here's where you're at, but you already made this payment to kind of figure out where they're going. So it can match cash flow a little better, but as long as you make them all by January 15th, you're good. Yeah. But it's hard because how many people have all their bookkeeping caught up and ready to go, like right into the January through December. So you have to, that's why keeping up with your bookkeeping is also helpful because then you can kind of have an idea.
Right. Yeah. And have a nice little tax savings account. Off
and
to the
don't
side.
Forget, like we're talking about, there's federal and state,
right?
So there's only 5 states that don't have it. So everybody else, you have to have state, and a lot of people don't do the estimated state. They'll do the federal and be so proud, but not realize there's state estimated payments too.
Right.
And I'm in New York, so it's like almost like California.
Yeah, right. They sure are. You and New Jersey and California are the favorites.
Gosh.
But the one caveat, IRS, if you're listening, you and the state should equal up the estimated payments so they're actually due quarterly. I hate how it's like April, June.
Yeah, the real
September.
Quarters. They're not real quarters. We use the term quarterly very loosely. It's January, February, March is due in April, and then April and May are due in June.
Oh, so it's just April and May are due in June?
Yeah, yes. And then June, July, August, like it's broken up very odd. And I just want to let you know, I'm in New York where we have quarterly sales tax, and quarterly sales tax is December, January, February, then March, April, May. Like it goes over 2 tax years. It's, like this is what I'm talking about with states. Like I literally think they have meetings to be like, well, how do we stay different than everyone else? Like what is the thing?
How can we take quarterly payments in a calendar that's 12 months long and make them not equal?
Yes. And I hate the New York, like that last quarter because it feels like quarter 1 because you're in February, but then you're like, no, it's not. It's actually quarter 4 of last year. Like what the heck?
That's crazy.
It's
my
annoying.
Gosh. All right, guys. So I think you've probably figured out that we should all have some tax planning help because I even learned some things from this conversation today, and I consider myself a pretty high-level tax nerd.
Yeah, I love this, though. It was great. I definitely love like that you get it. Like it's important.
Yeah. Awesome. Tiffany, tell us where photographers can find out more about you or get help from you because you specialize in this very thing.
Absolutely. So I would just say go to my website. It's www.bastianaccounting.com. So that's BASTIAN accounting. So one long word, the longest thing I could find, bastianaccounting.com. And we have the Learn With Us section. And there's a ton of freebies. You'll get the state-by-state sales tax guide. I have a business structure masterclass. I have QuickBooks Online for photographers as a masterclass that kind of goes through and shows you all the things that are in there that you can use because you don't really get that view anywhere else. But I have a ton of freebies on there, and they're all really good places to get started. There's a business expense breakdown guide, and the 2 sales tax guides. We have the destination and then the resident state. So wherever you live and do business versus wherever you're traveling, because those are 2 different sets of rules.
Right.
But yeah, I really thank you for having me on here. I think it's so important. And it's one of those things, being in this industry, like no one really cares about taxes. So even in corporate America, I was like in the department no one cared about. Like, so I love when people are like, let's talk about taxes.
I know. Random secret about me. When I was thinking of moving on, I used to be a zoological animal trainer for 13 years. And I was like,
cool.
I'm ready for a new something. I almost went from like training free flight birds and seals and primates to like, I'm going to become a CPA.
Yes. Well, I would like to say I am not a CPA. I'm an enrolled agent. And that's a big thing. People don't realize the difference. A CPA takes a 4-part exam, which I was going down that road too.
Yeah. All right.
But it's like an attorney, right?
Yep.
So it's very general. Unless they go specialize in tax, they're not necessarily a tax pro.
Okay.
But a lot of CPAs become tax pros. That's what they do. But an enrolled agent is a 3-part exam through the IRS. And that is business tax, personal tax, and ethics. I take 73 hours of continuing education, and I can represent in all states where CPAs can only work in their states. And that's a huge thing. A lot of my clients keep telling me to tell everyone, like, we help photographers in all states.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, because of the CPA mentality, don't realize like you can do that.
Right.
CPAs have to work in states in which they're registered to work in. EAs do not. And I'm certified through the IRS, and they don't mess around.
Right.
And I don't work for them. I don't have a really cool badge or anything. I remember when I got my EA certificate in the mail, my husband's like, you don't get a badge? I'm like, yeah, whatever.
I'm going to make my own badge.
I feel like I earned one. But yeah, so I just want to put that out there because a lot of people, even my own clients, will be like, my CPA. And I'm like, guys, I'm not a CPA. I'm an EA. And only because you got to be careful when people use the title that you're not credentialed in. But I guess it's like the new revolution. You don't have to have a CPA. You just need somebody who understands the tax laws and can help your industry. So yeah.
Perfect. And truly, on that same note, it's important to find a tax professional that's going to help you, EA or CPA or whatever, that's familiar with photography. Because I actually had somebody that was helping me at first. For my first couple of years, I ended up switching because it was like I was bringing more photography things to him than he was to me, and was not very familiar with the industry. Right. So when you find someone that really is familiar with our industry, it's so helpful.
It's like any business. A niche is everything, because you can see in that example there, it's generalized. You can be a CPA, but and even for me, wouldn't that be exhausting to try to be, especially in this world, to try to help everybody and everything. So the second that I was like photographers, I already had a majority of my clients were photographers. The girl who does all of my photography was one of my first clients. And I'm like, you know what? That's what I'm doing. We're doing it. I remember I changed my logo and I put the word photographers, and I started my Facebook group in September, I think, of 2020. And I'm like, there's like 4,000, almost 5,000 people in there. And I'm like, this is insane. But I was so scared. And that would be the other thing. Because even in photography, there is a lot of generalization. But if you can niche into something, you can do it so much deeper and better. And you're just so much more attached to it. And people can really trust you on that topic. So,
Yep. I agree, says the girl that has pet photography education. Forget the rest of, if you are another genre photographer listening to the podcast, thank you. And we welcome you.
Yes.
I do love serving my pet photographers.
Oh my God. I just love pet photography as a whole. I have a dog and I'm like, Siri, you need a photo shoot. She's always in mine, but I'm like, you can have your own thing, girl.
I know. It would be amazing. Well, if you would jumped in a couple of the images, then that would be a write-off for you. No, marketing images.
Right. There we go.
Yep. Done. All right. Perfect. Tiffany, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for coming to join us. And you guys know how to find her. So thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Bye, everybody. I'll see you next week. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, go ahead and take a screenshot of this episode on your phone and post it up there on your Instagram stories, and be sure to tag us at Hair of the Dog Academy. And we would just love to see how you're listening. And full disclosure, sometimes we just like to give away a little pet photographer swag in the form of Hair of the Dog t-shirts and sweatshirts. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and share that screenshot of this episode. And don't forget to tag us at Hair of the Dog Academy. And while you're there, maybe you want to jump on over to our account and see what we're up to on the gram. Would love to connect with you. Thanks for listening to the Hair of the Dog podcast. This was episode number 134. If you want to check out the show notes for access to any of the resources that we mentioned, simply go to www.hairofthedogacademy.com/134.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Hair of the Dog podcast. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to leave a review. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming episodes. One last thing, if you are ready to dive into more resources, head over to our website at www.hairofthedogacademy.com. Thanks for being a part of this pet photography community.